Well, good evening. Nice to be here with you all. Tonight we're talking about living fearlessly. And as I was preparing for this talk, the irony was not lost on me. But it's a great subject, living fearlessly, because in today's world and with what's all going on out there, Master does talk about living fearlessly and the importance of it. So tonight, in looking at the subject and seeing what we can do to live more fearlessly, more courageously in the world, it will be very good for all of us. I was at the Convocation Open House on Sunday, and one of the devotees came up to me, somebody that I'd met through the years. And he said to me, "Brother, you have no idea of the stress that's out there in the world nowadays." I said, "Go ahead." He kept talking. He said that people get up in the morning and they just have this stress, this feeling that there are things they can't control in the world. He said, "A world financial crisis. How do you put your mind around that? How do you do anything to try to get that to become something you can control?" Very difficult. Very difficult. And if it's not a financial crisis, it's natural disasters. It seems like every week there's something new to put your mind on and to become fearful of. Living fearlessly. I think more than maybe any time in past years, we've had this series of things that can keep pushing us toward fear. I always like when big things happen to have a sense of perspective. And years ago, I was given a chart of the Milky Way. Now, the Milky Way is our galaxy. This is where our Earth exists. Our sun is one of the stars in the Milky Way. It's a big diagram, big picture from National Geographic, an artist's rendition of the Milky Way. It's a spiral galaxy, the Milky Way. Spins out stars, kind of flat, but you can see the pattern of this spinning spiral. Astronomers say there are 300 billion stars in our Milky Way. 300 billion. Now, the sun is one of those stars, so some of these may have planets going around them. No doubt they do. And they also say that if you were to get on one side of the Milky Way and if you were to send a light beam across it, it would take 100,000 years, 100,000 light years across. Absolutely staggering. You start thinking these proportions, they're beyond comprehension. Okay, now that's not even it. Now you keep that in your mind as I tell you this. The astronomers say there are 100 billion other galaxies out there, like our Milky Way. Okay, now we come back to Los Angeles and nobody feels as bad, right? What, me have problems? But Master also gives us perspective. Often in his teachings or his writings, he'll point out things, ways of looking at things that show us how to have that perspective on life and its problems. And one of the ways he has is, he says that life is a stage, that all of us are actors on that stage, that we come for a period of time in which we play our roles, in which we perfect our roles, in which we try to please the divine stage manager, as he says, which is God. He has a wonderful little poem in Songs of the Soul. He says, "This wondrous day, stage set for play by unseen hand, the players drop from no man's land, then vanish all away. With changing scenes of birth and death, the drama's on. The actors play anon, yet know not why they play this wondrous day. Yet know not why they play this wondrous day." Most people in the world are that way. They find themselves on the stage of life. Curtain opens, they look around a little bit puzzled, figure out what they are meant to do, and somehow stumble through it. But we have a guru who explains that to us, explains what the purpose of life is, explains why we're on this stage, how we get off of the stage, how we perfect our roles that we play. This world is not meant to be perfect. Master says so. He says it's a place where we learn things. Again, the stage where we have this role to play. There was a Belgian physicist who won the Nobel Prize some years back. And one of the things he maintained in his dissertation was that everything in nature, everything in creation needs friction. It needs friction to grow, to change, to perfect itself. And someone writing about that particular part of his dissertation said, friction is a fundamental property of nature, and nothing grows without it. Not mountains, not pearls inside of oysters, not people. The capacity for being shaken up is paradoxically the key to growth. Any structure, whether at the molecular, chemical, physical, social, or psychological level, that is insulated from disturbance is also protected from change. It becomes stagnant. Even science points to the fact that we're supposed to have trouble. We're supposed to have difficulties. Now, that's not good news, I agree, but it's nonetheless confirmation. We often think that if we could just change a few things, that if we could just, this person could leave us alone, or something could open up for us, life would be a lot easier. Well, we wouldn't get the lesson that we need. And God talks with Arjuna, our master's explanation of the Bhagavad Gita. He has a statement. He says, the cosmic law sees to it that duties which come to man in the natural course of life are those he is meant to perform for his own welfare. Those duties which come to man in the natural course of his life are those he is meant to perform for his own welfare. Again, if you were on this stage and we have a role before us, we have a part to play, we're supposed to play it. And running away from it, or wishing it were different, or wanting to change some of the other actors around us or the circumstances, we're not getting the lessons that we need. It's an important principle that our Guru talks about and that we have to be clear about, because otherwise we can miss the point on the spiritual path. One of the older monks, no longer with us, Brother Premamoy, once said to a group of us, tests will always come, but they come to point things out to us. Tests will always come, but they come to point things out to us. This understanding that things coming our way, that things that we cannot explain or are uncomfortable, they're meant to be. What are they pointing out? So about fear. What do we know about fear? What does Master say about fear? He says, to be fit for self-realization, a person must be fearless. He makes that statement in God Talks with Arjuna. To be fit for self-realization, a person must be fearless. He not only means that person must be courageous, but that person must have control of fear. He must be able to control it. He must be able to not let it so influence his life that it changes his role on the stage. Our Guru says, fear robs man of the indomitability of his soul, disrupting nature's harmonious workings emanating from the source of the divine power within. Fear causes physical, mental, and spiritual disturbances. He explains that fear ties the mind and the heart to the external man, causing the consciousness to be identified with mental or physical nervousness, thus keeping the soul concentrated on the ego, the body, and the objects of fear. Now, our Guru was fearless. There are many instances where it was just amazing what a lack of fear he had. He just commanded a power and a presence. And I was trying to think of what I could get as far as a story about our Guru that would point out this fearlessness. And I came across a story that a devotee had written some time ago. about their impressions of Swami Yogananda. This was back when he was still lecturing and traveling around. It doesn't particularly deal, he's not facing a fear, but you get from the sense of this description the power that he had, the presence that he had, the command of life and people around him. So let me just read this. You can imagine our Guru as he's being described here. This person wrote, "When I heard that Swami Yogananda was to give a lecture in Northern California, I couldn't wait for the day to arrive. The lecture hall was packed with his disciples and admirers, as well as the curious. As he came on stage, we instantly felt that he was in total command of the situation. His bright orange silk robe stood out in beauty, with his black hair falling over his shoulders. He began his talk on the importance of body control. He interrupted his talk to ask if there was a doctor in the audience. A man stood up and Swamiji asked him to come on the stage. He requested the doctor, "Take my pulse and tell me what you feel." The doctor felt his wrist, looking perplexed at first and then amazed. "There is no pulse," he answered. Swamiji then told him to take the pulse in the other wrist. The doctor's facial expression turned from amazement to incredulity. He said, "Swami Yogananda, this is impossible. Your pulse is pounding at an incredible speed." He quickly tried the other side again and said, "This side is normal." He came down from the stage into the audience, shaking his head and mumbling, "Impossible, impossible." Swami Yogananda continued his lecture on the untapped powers latent in our bodies and minds. He suddenly stopped and asked 6 men to come up. 6 people quickly ran up, anxious to be of service and to take the opportunity to get closer to him. He asked the 6 men to line up with their hands on each other's back, making a line across the platform. Swamiji said, "Now that you are lined up, the first one, put your hands on my stomach." With just a tiny straightening of his body and a quick flick of his stomach, Swamiji sent the 6 men catapulting across the stage, hitting the wings. They literally flew in the air. The audience sat speechless. Swami stood in his serene dignity. There was no feeling of a power trip or of showing off. Swamiji was immersed in his message of the untapped power within, and he merely wanted to demonstrate the truth of his message to us. His dynamic talk began to take the theme of Christ consciousness. At this point, a couple got up to leave. He looked at them with a penetrating look and said, "Sit down." Anybody leaving? He said, "Sit down. This opportunity will never come for you again." They sat. It was not said rudely or authoritatively. One could feel the order coming from God himself. The power, the presence, our Guru had no fear. In fact, it was well known that people never told our Guru that he couldn't do something because that was the invitation for him to prove them wrong. It didn't matter what it was. You can't do that. Well, he would prove that he could. His willpower was so dynamic, and his presence, just the power of his personality. What is fear? It's a good question. What is fear? Well, it's described by psychologists and scientists. There are some very good descriptions out there. Here's one. This is a author who has studied fear through the years and studied different tests and things on fear. He said, "Fear is a basic emotion. It is the body's way of anticipating and avoiding pain and the dangers that pain signals, namely injury and death." It's a way that we avoid hurting ourselves. You can imagine in the beginning, probably no, this is not true, but you could imagine people not having an idea of pain, and the cavemen looking at the side of the cliff and telling his friend, look, I can lean over this far, and whoop, he's gone. And his friend, not having any fear, would try the same thing, and pretty soon God realized, no, we need something else here. We need pain. Let's put him in. Let's see if we can design it with pain involved or with the anticipation of suffering. So then they said, no, I'm not going near there. I don't want to slip. I don't want to fall. Fear is the way we can anticipate hurting ourselves or even death. They say that every animal reacts to fear. This psychologist also says, fear is our most primal emotion. Intense fear takes precedence over everything else in our minds and bodies. When faced with a life-threatening danger, we instantly lose our desire for everything other than to deal with the peril. Fear is fundamental because life is fundamental. Every animal experiences fear. Why do we experience fears? From an evolutionary perspective, the answer is straightforward. So we can survive, probably injury-free for as long as possible, or at least as long to rear our children and thus perpetuate the species. So there's a reason for it. In fear, they say that the two main ways that all animals react is fight or flight. Adrenaline goes into the system, and we either stand up to what's causing us fear or we run away from it. Fight or flight. Master says of fear, fear was given to man as a cautionary device to spare him pain. It is not meant to be cultivated and abused. And I think, although fear causes fight or flight in most people, in the yogi, not so much. The yogi learns to take that emotion and to control it, just as the other feelings, just as the other thoughts. He becomes the master of fear. He doesn't necessarily have to run or fight. He can overcome it, overcome himself, push these fears aside. Our Guru gives some very practical advice for dealing with fear. And this is if you find yourself in a fearful place. He has a number of great lessons, a number of great techniques for overcoming fear. And I must say that this little book, Living Fearlessly, well worth any of you carrying this around with you. It has different examples and techniques and different inspirational thoughts that our Guru gave on this subject of overcoming fear. And it fits right in your pocket or your purse, and you should be able to live fearlessly once and for all. Our Guru says fear comes from the heart. If you ever feel overcome by some dread illness or accident, you should inhale and exhale deeply, slowly and rhythmically, several times, relaxing with each exhalation. If your heart is truly quiet, you cannot feel fear at all. Very simple technique. If you're feeling fearful, breathe rhythmically. Start breathing in and out. This quiets the heart. And when the heart is quiet, you cannot feel fear. He also says, whenever you feel afraid, put your hand over your heart. Rub from left to right and say, Father, I am free. Father, I am free. Tune out this fear from my heart radio, just as you tune out static on an ordinary radio. So if you continuously rub the heart from left to right and continuously concentrate on the thought that you want to tune out fear from your heart, it will go, and the joy of God will be perceived. A technique, a yogic technique for removing fear from the heart, moving the energy from left to right. Another very important way to overcome fear is, Master says, be selective in the people you associate with. He said, if you're around fearful people, if you're around people who all the time talk about their illnesses and their fears and their apprehensions, this wears off on you. He used to say, show me a person's friends and I can tell you who that person is, what that person is like. It's that important. Environment is stronger than willpower. Our Guru firmly believed that. Surround yourself with courageous, fearless people, and you will become courageous and fearless yourself. Our Guru says, a little story he tells, he says, once I was a guest at a very nicely arranged dinner party. I had much enjoyed the dinner, but our host was so nervous lest things not go right that it marred the whole affair. Those who are sensitive feel your nervousness. Why worry? Do your best and then relax. Let things go on in a natural way rather than force them. Then everyone around you will be relaxed too. This ability to let things go in their natural, not to worry so much about things. You know, this is the first convocation since they started that our beloved Sri Dayamata is not with us. She was always with us behind the scenes, praying for the success of the convocation. And I'm sure she is this year too, but it's way behind the scenes, you know, it's not quite the same. But Ma was this way, no matter what situation she was in. She was so natural. She was so perfectly behaved, so perfectly in touch with everything around her. I remember one of the years at convocation, she was to come down and to visit. She visited here. And I knew she was coming, the monks did. She was to pull up to the curb outside here, and then as the class was going, she was going to come to the back of the stage here and then be ready to come out. And I thought to myself, well, poor Ma. I thought, poor Ma, she's going to come up to the street there, and maybe I should stand out there, see if she needs anything. At least she'll see a familiar face. She knows me. Maybe I can help her in some way. And so I went to the street, and there was a big crowd of people around, and it was a big hubbub, Ma coming. I remember the car pulling up. Ma got out of the car, and as she's walking over, she says, "Oh, Jayananda, how are you?" She was totally concerned about me. "How are you?" And I'm thinking, well, what can I do to help Ma? You know, like somehow I'm going to help her through this difficulty. She was so natural. It just struck me as being, well, that's Ma. And then she would come out on these occasions. You've seen videos of her where she would be just so totally natural in front of people and so totally present. Most of you, or many of you, have probably seen this photo display at Mother Center that we have of Dayamata. This was put up right after her passing and then taken down, and then we had the intention of putting it up again for convocation because we thought many people had not seen it. But if you look at all of those pictures, and I have every single one of them, the thing you notice is that Ma is perfectly present in each one of them. And it doesn't matter whether she's meeting world leaders, famous people, talking in front of people, meditating with devotees. It doesn't matter what she's doing. If you look at Ma, she's the picture of right behavior, of perfect balance, of perfectly present. Remarkable, remarkable. But this was her. She had a very strong connection to Master, to Divine Mother, and this emanated from her no matter what situation she was in. She never seemed out of place. Our Guru says, here's a very simple technique that we can do. He says, if you're unable to dislodge by conscious will a haunting fear of ill health or of failure, keep on diverting your attention by reading interesting books that absorb your attention, or even indulge in harmless amusements. Then the mind will forget to haunt itself with fear. If you find yourself in a fearful place, do something that distracts you. Yeah, read interesting books. Have amusements that are harmless. Better that than get in the habit of constantly going over fears in your mind. You know, one of the things that we need to develop in becoming fearless, though, is courage. Courage is something that every devotee, every person who is seeking truth has to become more and more acquainted with. Courage means facing the difficulties that are in front of you, not running from things, playing the part on the stage of life that you've been asked to play. Courage. How do we develop courage? Well, we develop courage by being courageous, by looking at life and saying, well, how can I be courageous in this situation? Or how do I react to this in a courageous way? There's a poem written in the late 1800s by an English poet by the name of Ernest Henley called Invictus, meaning in Latin probably for invincible. It's sheer courage. It's being in a difficult situation and yet just having the will and the courage to go through. It says, Invictus, out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how strait the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. Courage, the ability to do what we need to do when it's required of us. It doesn't come all at once, and courage doesn't necessarily mean that it's a life and death struggle. It can be something much more everyday in our lives. What does Master say? Seek to do brave and lovely things that are left undone by the majority of people. Give gifts of peace and love to those whom others pass by. That's courage too. Seeking to do brave and lovely things left undone by the majority of people. All of us, I think, can think of instances in our lives when this is possible. And with will, with consciousness, with awareness, we can take those steps toward being courageous. It's like anything else. These qualities, we develop them by practicing them. And we practice them by being aware that we have to work on them. This idea of looking at ourselves, of introspecting, saying, what are the qualities I want to develop? I remember once Brother Bhaktananda telling the monks that, he said, you just have to take one quality a week and then work on it. And he said, over time you find that these things become a part of your character. Now he had a very straight, very uncomplicated way of looking at things. But he had a life that proved that he lived these things too. So when he spoke like this to the monks, we always listened. And we have to realize too that hard times and difficulties that we may be going through, they teach us lessons that we can't really learn any other way. I think many people who look back on their lives and they say, well, that period of my life was very difficult. That was very challenging. Most people would say, but I wouldn't trade it for something other than that because I grew a lot through it. This is what courage teaches us. It teaches us that these things are not our enemies, these things that happen to us that are difficult. They can help us in ways that nothing else can. And besides, somebody said, don't worry, everything is eventually temporary. You can always remember that. Everything's going to be temporary one day, so we can stand it. One of the pillars of our teachings about fear, of course, is the statement by Swami Sri Yukteswar about looking fear in the face. It's told in the autobiography. Our guru asked him for some stories about his youth, and he said, well, I'll tell you 3, each with a moral. And the story was, Mother once tried to frighten me with an appalling story of a ghost in a dark chamber. I went there immediately and expressed my disappointment at having missed the ghost. Mother never told me another horror tale. The moral, look fear in the face and it will cease to trouble you. Look fear in the face and it will cease to trouble you. Interesting, the Sri Yukteswar was not afraid of ghosts. He was not afraid of these things, although it was an appalling story and his mother did try to frighten him. But he did change his mother. I'm sure from that point on, his mother was very careful about what she said to her son. But there's a lot of information in that little story. Look fear in the face and it will cease to trouble you. Swami Sri Yukteswar, of course, and our master, when they told these stories, they would get the lesson the first time. Many times we take a lot longer, as do I have to admit. Robert Frost said, "How many times does something have to happen to us before something occurs to us?" With Swami Sri Yukteswar, probably once was enough. He got the lesson and he moved on. As I say, I take a little longer. This is something that happened 5 years ago now. I needed to talk to Ma, Dayamata. I had some things on my mind, some worries, some anxieties. And she graciously said, "Yes, you can come." And so I went in to speak with her. I hadn't told her anything of what I wanted to talk about, but I had these worries. I had these fears. Ma could always read me like a book. She knew exactly where I was coming from. And in fact, in this case, she could read me even though I wasn't in front of her. She knew exactly what I was coming. She could read me like a Kindle. Huh? I was downloaded. Okay, he's got... I went in to see her, and she had this little table sit next to the chair that she was sitting in. And on this table was a little poem. I know that she likes this poem. It's called Humility by Canon T.T. Carter. It was something that she had framed in her study at Mount Washington, and it was something that she referred to from time to time in satsangs. Humility. And it was written back in the 1800s. And this fellow had written, "Humility is perpetual quietness of heart. It's to have no trouble. It is never to be fretted, or vexed, or irritated, or sore, or disappointed. It is to expect nothing, to wonder at nothing that is done to me, to feel nothing done against me. It is to be at rest when nobody praises me, and when I am blamed and despised. It is to have a blessed home in myself, where I can go in and shut the door, and kneel to my Father in secret, and be at peace as in a deep sea of calmness, when all around and above is troubled." Humility. This is what humility looks like. I knew that Ma liked this. I had read it through the years. It's been printed in our magazine. But anyway, she had this sitting beside her. Before I could say anything to her, she held it up to me. She said, "Have you read this?" And I said, "Oh, yes, Ma, I've read it many times." Yes. Again, you have Swami Sri Yukteswar, he gets it right away. Me, it takes a few times. But as she "Have you read this?" "Oh, yes, Ma, I read it." She looked at me and she kind of smiled a little bit. And then she did this with her head. It said everything to me. It said everything. I wrote down on the back, which I often did, when she would do things or say things to me that I thought, I've got to remember this. I'd either make a note in the diary, or in this case, I wrote right on the back of this paper. It says, "Given to me by Ma in February of 2006. I had been worrying about a few things, had a concern about the future, etc. She handed it to me and asked, 'Have you read this?' I answered, 'Oh, yes, Ma, I know that poem.' But she continued to hand it to me while giving a slight reverse nod with her head as if she was saying, 'Yes, yes, my boy, but have you read it?' She was saying, study it, practice it. It has helped me, and it will help you." It's a treasure now, because I see that this is something that Ma, in her great concern for others, she took the time to say, well, this will help Jayananda. Let me see if I can give this to him. And what is it? What it's saying is, change yourself. Change yourself if you want to have happiness in this world, if you want to be free from anxiety, if you want to be free from fear, if you want to be free from worry. Change yourself. In the autobiography, there's the story of Master in Sri Yukteswar's hermitage. And he is eaten alive by the mosquitoes. And Sri Yukteswar says to him, is the whole world going to change for you? Change your own consciousness. Be rid of mosquito consciousness. Now, Master didn't have mosquito consciousness, and he didn't need these lessons. He wrote them down for us. These are the things he went through that we could learn from them. Change yourself. And this whole idea of Swami Sri Yukteswar is look fear in the face, it will cease to trouble you. It's not about changing the things around us that cause us apprehension. It's about me. How do I change myself? We were saying that Master was so unique and so able to withstand things that would really devastate others. It's a story he tells. Here in California, he was on a tour. He wrote, "In San Francisco in 1925, I had only $200 in the bank and was about to begin a lecture campaign. I had not enough money even to make a start, and many large bills had to be paid. I said to myself, God is with me. He has given me this trouble and he will look after me. I am doing his work. I know that he will help me. If the whole world forsakes you, but you know that he is with you, his law will work its wonders for you." When my secretary came to me and I told him how much money we had in the bank, he literally collapsed on the floor. I said, "Get up." He was shaking. "We're going to jail for not paying our bills." I said, "We're not going to jail. In 7 days, we will have all the money we need for the campaign." He was a doubting Thomas, but I had faith. I was not in need of money for any gain of my own, but to spread God's work. I had no fear, even for the enormity of my troubles. Fear is afraid of me. Fear is afraid of me. Master also says somewhere that he says, danger and I were born together, and I am the elder brother. More dangerous than danger. You can just imagine Master throwing that out with willpower. Master goes on to say, nothing should give you fear. Face all troubles with faith in God and you will conquer. And think of it. I was walking in front of the Palace Hotel when an elderly woman came up to me and said, "Can I talk with you?" We exchanged a few words, and then out of the blue she said, "I have money to burn. Can I help you?" I replied, "I don't need your money. Why should you offer money to me when you don't even know me?" She answered, "But I do know you. I have heard so much about you." And right there, she wrote out a check for $27,000. I saw in that the hand of God. It's the way he lived his life. It's the way he lived his life. And he had certainly plenty of worries, plenty of things that he had to try to overcome. It wasn't a smooth life for our guru. Certainly coming over from India, starting an organization the way he did, maintaining an organization, buying Mount Washington, all of these things were big responsibilities, full of anxiety, full of difficulties, but he knew he was doing God's work. Great souls, they're not free of worry, they're not free of anxiety, but they deal with it in different ways. I remember once, there was a few of us who were with Ma, Daya Mata. And she said to us that, I had so many things on my mind last night. She said, I couldn't fall asleep. She said, yet I knew the body needed rest. She said, I had a big day today. There are a number of meetings I had to attend. She said, but I couldn't fall asleep. She said, so I sat up and meditated. She said, that was Guruji's way. Guruji taught us to do that. And then she said, I sat up and meditated. Oh, what joy. And you could see it in her face. Her eyes were sparkling. You know, I can't sleep? Okay. I have another way of dealing with that. Meditating, going deep within, feeling that joy and that peace. You know, we tend to think, and sometimes people ask me, well, tell some stories about Mama. In my observation, she didn't float from place to place. She lived her life in a very real, very sometimes difficult way, but she overcame it with right attitude, with just this constant awareness of the presence that she was feeling within. And that to me is much more inspiring than someone that I cannot attain to, someone who is on a pedestal, someone who doesn't go through the things that everyone else goes through. So building courage, looking fear in the face, it will cease to trouble you, important concepts. I think another way in which we can become able to overcome fear in today's world, we have to really work at keeping our lives simple, keeping our lives focused on what's important. And it's not easy in today's world. It's not. We have so many complications in life, so many things that pull at us. Someone recently said to me that stress is measured by how often you have to reorient your mindset. Reorient your minds, meaning we have so many different things coming into us, be they electronic gadgets, be they just communication, just the way that we're plugged into the world and how the world is plugged into us. It's much more difficult now to live a simple, focused life. And yet this is really vital to be successful on the spiritual path. Solitude and silence, thinking and writing, simplifying life, living in simple surroundings, these things are important to us. They're important to us if we want to be successful. Our guru said, separate your needs from your wants. And if you do this, I think you find that your life becomes much more simple. What are our needs? Attend to those. By all means, attend to them and be successful in attending to them. But don't constantly have desires. Don't constantly start bringing up new desires, because it will just complicate your life and take you away from the center that you need to be in. Our guru had a very nice expression. He said, plain living and high thinking. He liked that, plain living and high thinking, meaning simplicity, but the mind is absorbed in profound and good thoughts. He said, concentration on great books, great men, great problems, great doctrines, and facts and their lessons cannot but result in high thinking. With the mind, what we put in is what manifests in our life. The ability to really plunge our mind into these good thoughts, this high thinking. And you won't find better high thinking than in our Guru's teachings, because you know that when you're studying those, you're getting the behind the scenes as to how everything works. Before I came in the ashram, I was in school. And it was interesting. After I got Master's teachings, I had something to compare what I was getting in my philosophy classes and other classes. And it's amazing what that clarity gives you. You can see shreds of truth in different things, but you can also see, wait a minute, that's not right. Master says this, and you know intuitively that Master is correct. We have this treasure trove. It's almost as if, yes, we land on this stage and we're acting out our parts, but we've got somebody in the wings, someone behind the curtains there saying, come here, let me explain things to you. What a blessing. What a blessing. And if we put those teachings deep within, to the best of our ability, we don't lose those through the years. They stay with us. Probably for incarnations. We have this sense of what is right, what is true. Ma tells a story also of, through the years, she said that Master used to say to them, often he would tell them to do it now. Do it now. Meaning, when he gave them an assignment and there was any sense of, them waiting on it, he'd say, no, do it now. Ma always said, when she was talking about these different ways that Master gave training, she always said, he was so wonderful, he taught me so much. She was never resentful for the lessons that Master gave. But one time she said that Master called in the middle of the night, it must have been 2 or 3 in the morning, and he asked her, he worked through the night, he didn't have regular hours. He asked her, did we receive a letter from so-and-so? And Ma said, yes, I think we did, Master. It must be in the files. And she said, could I get it in the morning? Because, it is the middle of the night. And he said, no, do it now. And she said she went down, she found the letter, she went back up to Master. Imagine. But she said the training that gave her was beyond golden. And it's interesting because in the times when I was around Ma, I was always amazed at her ability to go from one thing to another, to not have likes and dislikes. You know, everyone who works behind a desk, you have a pile of things that you don't mind getting into, and you've got things over here that you'll get to them sometime, but you're not going to lose any sleep over them, huh? Ma was not that way. This is important? Okay, she would act on it. This over here, this is difficult. Okay, let me put my mind. She just had this evenness of disposition, an ability to concentrate and not have likes and dislikes. And she could do whatever needed to be done when it needed to be done. And this was the training that Master gave. When you practice that, do it now, you find that less and less you procrastinate. And procrastination can be a great burden on the mind. You find a tremendous freedom. So look at your life and say, are there things that I can start practicing? Do it now, rather than wait. You not only get a lot of things done, but you find a real freedom in it. This week we're talking, of course, about Kriya being the 150th anniversary. And we do want to say that any of these subjects, meditation, Kriya meditation, you find that you are helped more and deeper than in any other way. You really want to change yourself. You really want to overcome fear. Yes, these outward things, all great to do. You know, be they introspection, whatever, they all help. But Kriya changes us fundamentally from within. And the more we meditate, the more we start to perceive that joy and that peace within, the more we realize what we've been given. In the autobiography, it says that when devotees came to Lahiri Mahashaya with any problem, he recommended Kriya. Practice Kriya. Practice Kriya. It not only helps you to face difficulties in your life, but it gives you an understanding and a wisdom as to why you're facing them. You start seeing, oh, okay, this is the lesson I need to learn. And as that understanding and wisdom grows, you find that fear becomes less of a factor in your life. Our Guru said, cessation of fear, meaning the end of fear, comes with the contact of God, nothing else. Why wait? Through yoga, you can have that communion with Him. When you find God, what assurance and fearlessness you will have. Then nothing else matters at all. Nothing can ever make you afraid. He also says, continuously seek Him through prayer and Kriya Yoga. On Kriya Yoga, I wanted to read something from Mrlini Mata, our new president. She's remarkable, Mrlini Mata, and hopefully we'll see her this week. We'll throw that out and we'll pray for it, huh? You're going to have to pull her here. But her clarity of understanding, her depth of wisdom about Master's teachings, unparalleled. She really is a remarkable, remarkable soul. Master well knew who she was when he gave her the assignment of working on his writings. She comes at things from a way that continuously not only inspires me, but it's almost so new to me that she's so deep and so profound. But she says this, Kriya Yoga enables us to serve with far more than mere words. As exemplified by Guruji, this science shows that when we touch the infinite being of God in the stillness of meditation, something of that divinity becomes a part of us. When meditation is over and we return to our outer roles in this world, we find that we have brought with us some of God's divine qualities. Having borrowed from His wisdom, we are better able to grasp the meaning of life, to understand others, and to see through our own problems in life and find the right solutions. Think what unity, what a fellow feeling of brotherhood and harmony there would be if we could all share a bit of His divine love. The true Kriya Yogi is able to do that, and also borrow from the other divine qualities of God, His infinite peace and calmness, for example. The Kriya Yogi is able, as Guruji so beautifully expressed, to stand unshaken amidst the crash of breaking worlds. Change frightens and irritates us, but the Kriya Yogi, anchored in that which is changeless, is able to go through his duties and responsibilities in life maintaining the peace and calmness that help him to better cope with his problems and troubles. And because he can cope with his own, he can better help others with theirs. This is what we're striving for. This is what each one of us wants to profoundly make a part of our lives. And I say each one of us because you wouldn't be here if there was not this interest, this driving force in your life to make the most of these teachings that have been given to you. There's another side to Kriya Yoga, of course. We talk about it as the technique and how it changes us, how it is profound in its effect on our interactions in life. All these things are so true. But Kriya Yoga also cements that bond between disciple and guru. And that is equally, if not more important than even the technique itself. Babaji promised Lahiri Mahashai, I won't always come when you call me, but I'll come when you need me. He promised him that. And that is the promise of the guru to the disciple. He steps in when they really need him. This is the other side to Kriya Yoga. No small part. That the guru is there to support us, to help us, to hold our hands as we go through the difficulties in life, whatever they might be. And so during these times when we're, going through difficulties in the world, or whatever we might be going through in our life, we have to reflect on these things, because the more we reflect on them, the more we realize that what can hurt us? What really do we have that does not allow us to be successful in overcoming whatever comes in our way? To close, here's a quote from our Guru. He says, the time has come for you to know and understand the purpose of religion, how to contact that supernal joy, which is God, the great and eternal comforter. If you can find that joy, and if you can retain that joy all the time, no matter what happens in your life, you will stand unshaken amidst the crash of breaking worlds. So may God and Guru bless us all as we go forward and take these teachings with us throughout our life and make the most of them, because we have a tremendous, tremendous blessing and opportunity to do so.